Okay, so now it is time. Now that we have Git set up, we have a little more setup to do locally. And I'm going to do this with you because I also need to do this for mine. Because this process we're going to do at the beginning is a one-time setup. And then we'll go through this workflow that you will do again and again and again. So this one you're going to get a lot of experience with. This one is a one-time only. So here's what we're going to do. And I'm just going to copy Git all the way down to username. And we'll do the same thing for the next one in a minute. And I'm just going to copy that. Go to VS Code. Now in VS Code, this is where we left off last time. I'm in that base folder under terminal. If you don't remember how to get to terminal, oh, I should have gotten that default thing again, but oh, look, and what's nice here is when I open it again, it's listed so that it doesn't go away. So even that is kind of a way around that, but I am going to find the actual, I bet it's right here in set default profile. That might be it. I might have found it just by accident. Okay, I have to test it. You know, this is the way we learn. Honestly, this is the way we learn. Let's see. Let's see if it goes to bash. Oh, it did. Absolutely awesome. Okay, now I'm glad. It's fun to learn together. I know you're not in the classroom with me, but honestly, this stuff changes so much. We're always learning, always. Even if somebody who, comes across as knowing what they're doing, they're always learning. Okay, I already did it, but I just need to do it again. Copy it, come down to here. Now, what the commands we're about to do, it doesn't matter what folder you're in. And the reason I say that is later, it will matter. And right now, it won't. So I'm going to paste that command in. And then I'm going to do this. I'm going to open quote and close quote. And whatever I said, the username, I think that's the name itself is here. Okay. And then the email. Okay, so I'm going to copy that. Now this last command is just one we'll type in to see if they got set or not. So I'm going to paste that. And now here's the email you used for setting up your GitHub account. Okay, cool. So now, and I'm just going to back up because I happen to remember, if I go back, this is -- list. All right, so now I have those setups, which is great. Okay, now I have the username and setup, and I don't have to do that again. I'm good to go, and I can just clear that. All right, now it comes the part that, again, you're going to learn this many, many times. You'll get this experience, and I should say GET, not GIT. When I told you before that when you're modifying files, it changed colors, now we're actually going to see a little more about that. Just to be clear, there is an interface in VS Code for this version control, but honestly, I tell you from a experience standpoint, you want to learn command line because one of the things I'll have you do in an assignment, I think on the next due dates, is actually how to do more command line. So for today, though, I'm going to start you with, and by the way, FYI, when I give you these commands like this, that means you're going to type them in the terminal, okay? But this time, I'm just going to type git status. So interestingly enough, this command called git status is giving me an error. It's going to say fatal, not a Git repository. And if I look at the folder I'm in, let's see if you can, without me saying it quickly, why would git status, which just wants to give me a status of a repo, not work when I'm in this base folder? The answer is this base folder is not a GitHub repository. That's why. So what I can do is I can either change into one of these folders, or I can let VS Code help me by just right-clicking and saying open an integrated terminal. And when I do that, it just changes that to that folder, which, by the way, notice it also opened up another git bash session. So I actually have them both sitting there. I just want to show you, going back to here, I could have done this. I could have done cd space Ria Waller -PRI, and it would have done that same thing. I just have to type a little more. Now, I personally like using the command line, but there are certain things you want to let the editor make faster for you, and that is one of them. Okay, so let's go back over here. Remember, oh, which by the way, now both of these are in the same location. So yeah, I could just kill one. Doesn't matter. But anytime you're working in the repo for the first time since the last time you worked, you can right click and just say open an integrated terminal, and that will automatically take that directory that you're in and open it in the integrated terminal. So now we did all this so we could do get status. And will we get the error now? No, we actually get some good output saying that we're on the main branch. We'll learn about branches later. And what this is saying is this file called this README file that I was playing with, showing you how to use the autosave. This file is already tracked. Now, this is something you're going to learn in a minute. So I'm just previewing what you're about to learn because this file was already existing in the repo when we cloned it. So it wasn't a new file to the repository. It was an existing one. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and create another new file because I think it's good to know how to do this. All right, so let's actually do this. Let's create a new file in lectures. We already have a README, we have week 1 and week 2. So let's create another new file. Up in the private repo under lectures, let's create a file called week3.md. Okay, notice this is a little different. We've been using the web interface, now we're using VS Code. I hit enter, okay, and notice how this one is green. And if I do up arrow, which gives me the last command, now it's going to tell me that changes are not staged for a commit to the README file, which we did first. But in this case, we also have some untracked files. Okay, untracked means it's a file that the repo has never seen. So now we need to actually add it into the repo, and that's what this command is telling us. Also, what this command up here, I need to get rid of that $, because now we can either we can do get add star, which will add anything. So check out this. If I do get add, let me clear so you can clearly see. Get add star. There's two files that need, let's see what it does. Let's hit enter, okay? So now let's do get status. So now what we have is both of those files now got changed because when I did the star, it says anything that needs to be added into the repo. And in this case, there was a file that was already there, but that was changed. And then there was a new file. So see how this is M for modified. This is A now for archive. So what this means, and this is kind of what this is showing here, is that now it is in there and it is staged in here. So there's the workflow is do the work, add content to the files or create the files, add it into the repo either. And by the way, that's what I was showing here is you can do get add in the file name, but you can also just use a wildcard. So anything you've done just gets added, right? And now we're going to do the get commit. Okay. And the get status we do along the way just to see some of the changes and get used to it. So now we're going to do the last command. Okay. And this command has been happening in the background on the web when we were doing it this whole time when we were just committing from the interface of GitHub. So now we're going to type clear again, just so you can see this, git commit space -m space open quote. Now this is that message I kind of gave you the heads up about before, right? I'm going to say updating README and adding week 3 MD file. Okay. Now, why is this important? Because the reason we do version control is we can see the changes as we move through time. And if we ever need to back up, this would be a perfect place to do it, is back up here. But in this case, we're just going to go ahead, and now when we hit enter, okay, we got new colors. Notice how there's that means everything is now committed. And the way we can see that and I'm going to up arrow so I don't have to do it, is I'm going to do get status. And get status is like the branch is ahead. Now I'm going to show you what that means in a minute. There's nothing to commit. Working tree clean. Okay, and so this idea of a git version is also a tree, but it's also a folder. But all right, so here's what I want you to do. I want to explain this part of the message output. I'm going to go back to GitHub over here. I'm going to go to GitHub CIT82. I'm going to go to let's go to my private. And in lectures, we're going to see a couple things. We're not going to see week 3, and we're not going to see the changes I did to this file because we have locally added them to the local repo. We've committed them into the local repo, but we have not done the last command, and the last command is what pushes them. This is why we had to authenticate into GitHub, because we're about to push code into GitHub from our local dev environment. This is what we've worked for this whole process. So git push. Now, let's see if I think this should be good to go. Let's find out. Oh, this is going to push my private. Yeah, which I changed 2 files in my private. That's right. At this point, I know this is successful, okay, because it said, here's how many, it's going to compress it, it's going to write it. But really, the way I can tell it's successful is I go back to the web interface, I hit refresh, and now I see all these updates that I did here. I really want to make this clear. You've probably heard me say this already, but I'm going to say it again. From this point on, only change things locally on your Git local, your VS Code local, and then pushing using the workflow out to GitHub. Okay. And why do I say that? Because if I was to come in here and change something right now about one of these, because I still can, if I do that, then what that does is locally, when I go later and modify things and I try to push, I will get an error. Now, it's fixable, totally fixable, but for the beginning student, I don't want you to run into that error because it could throw you off. But later, I'll show you actually how to easily fix this. I actually have a video just for how to fix these, what we call conflicts, because there's a conflict between what the source, what we call the original, the origin, right? This is the origin, and this is the destination. And so it wants always for you to push, unless you're doing something more advanced in GitHub, but always in a beginner sense, you're taking code that you've modified under Git using VS Code, Git integration, and pushing to GitHub. Okay, I hope that helps. Now, I'm not even going to give you a video for this last thing, because this next thing you have to do is going to be so simple at this point. Okay, at this last point, you've done it. Congratulations, show us your local dev environment. Here's what I want you to do is to actually just come in here, take a print screen, whatever you want to have on the screen. You could have, maybe whatever terminal you're using. If you're using PowerShell, if you're using Command Mac and they're using ZSH, you could do that. You could also, there's another command I could show you real quick that's called git log, I think, or git log, that would show me all the commits I've done. Look at this. So you can scroll through that. However you want to do it. At this point, take your print screen, okay, resize it like we've done before, push it. Right now at this point, what we're going to do is when you take that print screen now, right, you're going to place it in this images folder, right, because that's how you're going to do this. So this is a little bit of a test, which is a good test here. When you take the print screen, you save it into here, you give it a name that's all lower cases, no space, right, and then when you're done doing that, then you embed it here. This is great exercise, okay? So you have to write at least 100 words. No replies are required, but some of your classmates, by the way, if you need help, ask out on Discord, come see me. But congratulations, you've done it. You've done your local dev environment. Even if you ran into issues, this is a huge step. Congratulations. All right, let's move on.